Hi everyone, for tonight's Nightcap and review, I'm having a water, and tonight I'll be discussing When God Had a Wife, The Rise and Fall of the Sacred Feminine in Judeo-Christian Tradition by Lynn, Pickett, and Clive Prince. This is my nonfiction audiobook that I downloaded off of Audible. I paid for it myself, and I found it really interesting. I gave it 4.75, so what's it about? Now, because this is a nonfiction, I'm going to read the synopsis off the Zahn to make sure I don't get anything incorrect. Despite what Jews and Christians, and indeed most people believe, the ancient Israelites venerated several deities besides the Old Testament god Yahweh, including a goddess Asherah, Yahweh's wife, who was worshipped openly in the Jerusalem temple. And after the reforms of King Josiah and prophet Jeremiah, the religion recognized Yahweh alone, and history was rewritten to make it appear as it has always been that way. The worship of Asherah and other goddesses are now hearsay, and so the status of women was downgraded and they were blamed for God's wrath. However, as Lynn Pickett and Clive Prince reveal, the spiritual legacy of the Jewish goddesses and the sacred feminine lives on. Drawing on historical research, they examine how goddess worship thrived in early Judaism and included a pantheon of goddesses. They share new evidence from an earlier form of Hebrew worship that prayed to both male and female gods, including a 20th century archaeological discovery of a Hebrew temple dedicated to both Yahweh and the goddess Anat, uncovering the sacred feminine in early Christianity. And authors show how in early century AD, both Jesus and his greatest rival Simon Magus were attempting to restore the goddess worshipping religion of the Israelites. The authors reveal how both men accorded a great honor to the women they adored and who traveled with them as priestesses, Jesus's Mary Magdalene and Simon's Helen. But as it happened centuries before, the church rewrote history to erase the feminine side of the faith, deliberately ignoring Jesus' real message and again condemning women to marginalization and worse. Providing all necessary evidence to restore the goddess to both Judaism and Christianity, Pickett and Prince expose the disastrous consequences of the suppression of the feminine from these two great religions and reveal how we have collectively and instinctively craving the return of the sacred feminine for millennia. So what are my thoughts? Again, I'm giving this a 4.75. I found this book to be very interesting because, like many who are re-examining their relationship when it comes to religion, for me, one of the factors was messaging. When I found out some books have been left out, or of course, when someone is preaching at you, they're twisting the books to fit their narrative or their messaging, or you find out that, in fact, that these books, when the stories were happening, they would be passed down through oral tradition, which was appropriate for that time, but it then becomes a game of telephone, and things could get forgotten, things could get twisted by the person who is preaching the story, and when they eventually ended up being written pen to paper, people would have filled in gaps with what was relevant to their time, and again, the person writing it would sometimes twist things to fit their narrative. You just get a big mix of things that leads you to question the stories you've been told. But as the authors take you through history and show you all these little clues, you just get this bigger and bigger picture of the systematic removal or diminishing of the women and their importance to the Bible that really stood out to me, that I found interesting. I think the chapter that really stuck out to me the most was chapter 7, which was the chapter on Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And the chapters following that, but it was definitely the start of chapter that I was really riveted. And I think that's because, like the author mentions, Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code really started to open my eyes. And this chapter kind of references that and brings a lot of those same topics into play. So it was definitely what started my questioning of religion. So it just really struck a chord with me. Overall, this book was really interesting and really stood out to me, and I would recommend it to anyone who's trying to deconstruct their relationship when it comes to religion or see what might have been changed in the Bible to, again, the relationship between women and the Bible. It is currently available, and I enjoyed the audiobook, and I hope everyone gives it a try, and I hope you have a good night and happy readings.